Hey, everybody, it's time for another NFL in London podcast. Week two already. We got the season going. Everyone's feeling good.
Already.
Injuries happening. Our teams, the fates, sometimes we fade
Panic has
panic for
set,
some teams, depending.
hope, panic, and
Could be,
every emotion.
yeah, and it also could be with fantasy as well. Some people are already out of their fantasy. You can already see it. Let's start off with the Thursday night football game where Green Bay demolished Washington 27-18. Defense really came up on this one for Green Bay. Jaden Daniels tried to get some stuff together, but it was that defense, and Jordan Love was able to get the ball going. Green Bay goes to 2-0. It looked like they were quite nervous when I was watching that game. Washington was struggling to come up. I don't think they had a plan, it seemed like.
I mean, I think from how they played last week, I don't think you should have expected them to come out and play lights out against this really good Packers defense. The Commanders just looked like they couldn't get anything going. Like Terry McLaurin looks like a guy who kind of missed a bunch of camp, and they don't look like they're on the same page. Debo's the only guy kind of doing stuff. He's got him returning kicks, so they're planning on basically running him into the ground before week 13. It looks like with Debo,
Yeah.
it's like let's see how. It's only week one. Let's have him do kick returns, running the ball, passing it to him. Guy with a history of injuries getting broken down. Let's just front load him at the front. It just looked, the Packers look great. Micah Parsons looks every time he's out there, he's causing havoc, and just makes Rashawn Gary, the two of them kind of feed off each other. And they've just been dominant. They haven't been able to get beaten. Even though it was 27-18, it was way worse than that. They got kind of a last second field goal, or sorry, last second touchdown. And, when Zach Ertz is the only really dependable guy on offense, this is what happens when maybe pivoting to becoming the oldest team in the league isn't always a great idea. It's like, hey, we just had this great young season. You know what we should do? Get as old as possible and as slow and just get beaten. Again, I just think I think the Commanders are going to find it hard to replicate what they did last year with a lot of, winning a lot of close games and, and you don't know, maybe Jaden Daniels this is year two. There's more film on him. People have had time to kind of adapt and game plan for him, see what he does well. And right now he's gotten two games where he hasn't looked incredibly sharp considering, he was one game away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and a couple injuries there. Austin Eckler and Jaden Reed both going down in that one. Jaden Reed, I think they're saying 4 to 6 weeks. Austin Eckler I think will be done. It's an ACL.
I think that's a great career. Great career, undrafted.
Yeah, no, that was it. Thanks for coming out. Have a good one. Retirement and off back to playing video games, pretty much.
He could try and get his wife's sister out of that cult, out of that TikTok cult or something. That's what he can do now.
Yeah.
He can spend some time getting
There's so much to do.
her.
So many exercises that he can do now. Yeah. Let's get into our Thursday night games, or it's not Thursday night, the Sunday night slate. We'll start with the 1 o'clock games, and we'll start AFC. AFC East is New England is 0-1 going into Miami, who is 0-1. Yet Miami is 1-point favorites in this one. 44 points is over under. Vegas is telling us there's going to be points scored in this one. Is there any way Miami can win this one? I've been looking at this one 7 different ways.
Yeah.
And it just comes up to me that, Doctor Strange is telling me it's New England every time, 44 million combinations and only Miami wins one of them.
Yeah, I've seen into every future and it's always a Dolphins.
It's not going to win.
Well, I've been going back and forth because I was like you thinking that way. But then I remembered that the September weather advantage that goes to a team like Miami. I don't know what the weather's going to be like there. I'd have to kind of look into. But if the Patriots are cooking in that heat, this feels like as big as a must win for any franchise in the whole NFL. I think this is the most must win for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I think they got to find a way. They only ran it 7 times with even AJ, unfortunately, because they were down so much. I think they're going up against their defense is going up against an offense that's really struggled to move the ball against the Raiders. So I don't think that the Patriots are like this matchup nightmare for them. I think the fact that Gonzalez, is out again, which I think is going to hurt them, especially with Waddle. And so I'm going to switch it and go to the Dolphins. I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win in a must and like a season saver. But if they get whooped, if they get blown out today or they lose badly, I don't see this is a Mike McDaniel problem you have on your hands. Mm-hmm. So I think Tua, they had a players only meeting, the Dolphins, in week 1. That's always a good sign. When
that's
players meeting on week 1. So I'm gonna go with the players only meeting. The Dolphins, they need this. They're at home. They got the advantage, especially in September when that happens the most. Patriots looked a bit lost on offense, and their defense is still a bit susceptible. So I'm gonna go Dolphins win 2020.
The weather is supposed to be 31 and rain. There's supposed to be a lot of
Yeah.
rain coming down in South Florida, which to me benefits the Patriots. It's just, there's so many gaps and holes, whether it's that Washington or sorry, Miami's offensive line, Miami's defensive line. I just see so many different things, and the coverage there. This is Vrabel. He's a defensive minded guy. I just can't see it. Like I just can't see them. And hopefully, you want to see if they get together. As to your point, the players only meeting. This is, it was a tough loss for New England. They didn't, as you said, didn't seem to find themselves. Didn't really have a direction going on here. Losing to Vegas, so I see them coming back here. They know that they can beat this Miami team. And I think they run the ball on him. Hunter Henry has a big game because I think
Yeah.
Miami's susceptible to tight ends. So I've got it 26-9, hitting
Oh,
the under. I think the rain's
8-9.
going to affect it.
Ouch.
But I got 3 field goals. I just don't see it happening. I just can't see them winning this one. It's another Florida team who are 1-0, and they're heading into another team who was 1-0 just barely. Jacksonville heads into Cincinnati. Cincinnati 3.5 point favorites with a 49.5 over under. A lot of people talking about how good the Cincinnati defense was, and as we talked in our last podcast, there was a lot of flukes for Flacco
I
in this
mean,
one. Um,
yeah.
and
I wouldn't.
the wide receivers, how good are they? And this is not Cleveland has a very good pass rush. Jacksonville is all right, but they've got some. They're going to put Travis Hunter, I think, mostly on defense to try to cover one of the star receivers. And is it going to be the Chase Brown show where they just try to run it up the gut the whole time? How can Jacksonville find a way to beat this Cincinnati team that got barely a W last week?
I mean, this is yeah, like it feels like this is you're going to be your classic Cincinnati game. Stuff. For all that's worth, week one up against that Cleveland defense that's no joke of a defense. A couple of years ago
No,
they were like 12-5 on the back of them, and that's when Flacco had that
yeah,
man. They were unstoppable, and you couldn't get anything. So I give them a little bit of grace, and I think that they're pissed off. I think Cincinnati wants to kind of come out here and put on a show for the home crowd, for get Chase going, get Dick. So I kind of like a lot of bets in this. Like I think this is going to be kind of the shootout game of the week. If Jacksonville can keep up, I think the Bengals kind of have to kind of cement themselves as we're not this September choking team all the time. And I think kind of week two feels like, week one there was so many unders across the board. All the best players were terrible. It felt like every first round pick in fantasy stunk, except Derrick Henry, of course. But I feel like this is the bounce back week where Jamar Chase has a big game, Joe Burrow has a big game. Say Brian Thomas Jr. has a big game. I think there's gonna be a lot of points in this game. So I'm gonna go 31-24 for the Bengals. I think big Joe Burrow game has about 3-4 touchdowns. I like Strange,
yeah,
Jacksonville tight end. He's just,
yeah,
Trevor Lawrence uses his tight end we saw that with Evan Ingram last year. This guy,
yeah.
I bet him last week and it's over and he hit it in like the first quarter, especially if you have Travis Hunter. They're worrying about Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas. It's going to be open for Strange. So I like his, which I think is like 30 yards. I like his prop bet. And I like Jamar Chase, like anytime touchdown. I think this is the game that he absolutely kind of wants to kind of go off. He got the money. He was the number one pick in fantasy, all the hoopla, first team number, like high on the top 100. So big game for him, big game for the Bengals, and they bounce back.
I think it's gonna be a big game as well. I actually hitting the under, but I've got Jacksonville to win this one by 1 point.
What?
I think Jacksonville can win this one 24-23. Cincinnati still struggles at the start of the season. And, Jacksonville is going to want to sort of put a little pressure on them. They're feeling momentum. Trevor Lawrence, again, is going to be one of those guys that doesn't chuck the ball up, but I could see Etienne having another big game in this one, big running game. And I've got Strange as well. I think that he's going to spread that ball around. Cincinnati is susceptible to tight ends, and Strange got good hands, got some good yards after the catch. So I like him as well. But for some reason, I just think that this is going to be one of those bugaboo games where their defense implodes a bit, and that if they just know how to shut down the big guys, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Chase Brown, especially if they go down. And Joe Burrow is going to be not as harassed as much, but he's still going to have a lot of pressure. I've got a Jacksonville upset in this one.
Ooh, baby.
Let's head into another AFC matchup, an AFC Battle of the North. Cleveland 0-1, as we talked about earlier, having that really rough game last week. Going to Baltimore, also 0-1, who also had a rougher game. But Baltimore's 11.5 point favorites in this one with a 44.5 point over under. Baltimore is going to be coming out for justice in this one. But as we talked about in the previous game, Cleveland's defense is nothing to shake at. These are guys that bring the pressure, that come at you. Is this Baltimore? Or are they just going to 11.5? Is that really effrontery to Cleveland, or is Baltimore just going to stick the boot up them?
I mean, I feel like they're going to. I feel like, especially coming off that loss, like you don't want to play Baltimore coming off after that loss. They're going to want to be at home, send a message. This is actually Flacco's first game in Baltimore since he's retired. He's never had a game in
Yeah.
Baltimore. He's played the Ravens, but never in Baltimore. So, quite nice for him to kind of have a comeback game. I just think the Ravens are just going to
Didn't he
put.
win a Super Bowl with them?
No, I know, but he hasn't played since he's left them. He hasn't come back
Oh, since he
to
left. Okay.
Baltimore.
Yeah. Okay.
Since he's left,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
That's what I
Since he
mean.
left. First game back. Yeah. You're like, first game. I was
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty sure he's played
pretty
there.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah.
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 So I think Lamar is just going to just foot to ass this game. I think it's going to be a beatdown. I think the Ravens are going to just kind of throw it all over them. They're going to get Derrick Henry. That defense is just going to be aggressive coming at Flacco. So I think this is the Browns had to go against Cincinnati's defense last week. Now they got the Ravens. So I think that's the difference and what's going to make this game hard for it to be close. So I'm going to take this Ravens 33-17.
11.5 is too much for me in this. Look, I know they put up some yards, Derrick Henry. I think he's going to have a tougher time against this Cleveland pass rush. So I don't see him stomping like 170 yards like he did against Buffalo.
No.
I could see Mark Andrews having a good game, though. Again, tight ends. This is a game where they'll spread the ball around. I could see Andrews betting an anytime touchdown on this. But I've got Cleveland to keep it within. I've got it 26-18. I got an 8-point spread. I just think 11.5 is too much for me. I could see them, but there's going to be a point, too, where they beat them, and it's like, okay, Cleveland's going to sort of irk back a little bit of salvation in this one. And, these guys play each other tough, and they've always played each other tough. Lamar has had a tough time against his team. So I can see that defense flustering a bit, Cleveland getting a bit of their running game going, and Judkins, I think, is going to spread the ball a bit. I think I could see him getting some yards out of this, too. So 26-18 is what I have. 8 straight losses it's been for the Giants against the Cowboys, and it looks like it could be number 9 as they're 0-1 heading into Dallas, who are 1-0. Dallas is 5.5 points. The over-under 44.5. Dallas played Philly tough. There were times you're like, oh my gosh, Dallas could actually do something. They got the running game going. Dak was looking a little more comfortable. The defense wasn't as great without Micah, but they're finding their direction. They're finding it. They're able to keep themselves in this game. New York Giants, we just still don't know what Dable is saying, but it sounds like Russ is going to be cooking for this one. But will he be cooking in the blue tent? I don't really know on this one. But do the Giants have a chance against this Dallas team at home?
Well, the question is, does Russell Wilson even make it to the second half? Which I say no. I say by the second half, Jackson Dart's in this game, if not before. I think Dallas is just going to be able to kind of, come out. They looked, the offense looked all right. And suppose they're going up against Philly's D compared to the Giants D. I think it's still going to be, they're going to have the problem with the Giants is they have a really good front four, but their secondary is terrible. So I see like a big CD Lamb game. I think again, he was a guy last week, a decent game, but lots of drops. So I see again, I think anytime touchdown or CD Lamb over, I feel like hit that. If they're going to try and get him get the crowd back, get him back, kind of back going and go out. Sorry. Child's coming in.
That's all right. He's got his own picks in this game. He heard the Cowboys. He's like, them boys.
Yeah. Sorry. Hold on. You talk about this game.
All right. So, my thing, as Ryan does some childcare in this one. Yeah, that's all right.
I'll finish.
Dallas.
I'll finish my point.
Okay, go ahead.
So, CD, I feel like this is a game that they're going to want to kind of get that offense. Even George Pickens, they're going to want to put on a show for the home crowd, kind of show them that this is our new kind of offense. Deontay Williams, I'm not sure what he's going to do, but to me, I just think the Giants are going to find it really hard to kind of keep up with the Cowboys. I think especially Jackson Dart might give them a spark, but I think it's going to be too little too late. They're going to be down probably 2-3 scores early. So I'm going to go Cowboys 27-14. I say they take it.
I've got it 21-14. Same thing. I can see, again, CeeDee Lamb having a big game only because, as you say, that disrespect that he had, all the memes about him having, bricks for hands. So I could see a lot of this coming back to them. And, I think Williams will struggle a bit more. He's not going to have as much running room, as you said, but, maybe if they use a play action and stuff like that, I could see him having some receptions. I'm looking at him for player points in terms of receiving. or in terms of receptions, but 21-14, I've got it. Heading into Tennessee, where Cam Ward had a bit of a struggle last time. The 0-1 Titans host the 1-0 Rams. Matt Stafford, an old man back. The defense playing well. Rams are 5.5-point favorites and a 41.5-point over/under. Can they get the running game going? Is Pollard going to be good? Is this something that the Rams, are just going to run all over them? Or is this going to be a defensive game where there's hardly any points scored and it's only a barely win? 5.5 points for the Rams. Do you think they'll cover that?
It's tough to say. I'm going to say yeah. Again, I think the Rams were okay last week. I don't think offensively they looked that dominant. I think again they're going up against a tough D in Houston. 14 points is not a lot. I think the Titans, who had the hardest ask of anyone last week to kind of go into Denver, rookie quarterback. He really struggles. I think the home crowd on him. I think the fact that they're going to be able to probably try and get Calvin Ridley involved. I like one of his bets, which is I think his receptions 4.5. Calvin
Yep.
Ridley over. I think that's a really nice bet because last week he was up against Surtain, really tough. So I think they're going to want to kind of get, especially Cam Ward. You want your number one guy has got to kind of help get him some confidence. So I see the Titans kind of keeping this a little chippy. I don't see the Rams. I'd say like Kyron Williams to have a big game. I think he's just a touchdown machine as well. So him anytime touchdown, I like. So I'm going to go with the Rams to win, but I'm going to go 24-21. Nice little close game.
Okay, a little cover.
Yeah.
It's just so hard. I think the Rams, their defense actually played quite well. They're quite ferocious. They've got a lot of shutdown. And this might be a game, too, where, I worry about the secondary. I could see maybe Devontae Adams anytime touchdown in this one as well. I've got it 23-13. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's just really hard for Cam Ward to get going. I can't really see the motivation, the kick-ass factors are going to make him sort of happen. I just think the Rams continue on. They're just one of those teams. They have solid coaching. The defense is good. The running game is good. And if Stafford can sort of just find himself in the pocket, take some Robitussin or whatever you have to do for your back. Maybe that's for colds. I don't even know what that is for, but
For
I think he
everything.
wins. I
For
think they win
everything.
23-13, just like meth. Speaking of meth, your drug, we head into the new Meadowlands, or whatever the stadium is called now, as the Giants are 0-1, hosting a Buffalo team who are 1-0. Buffalo 6.5-point favorites. The over under Jets. Sorry. What did I say?
Giants.
Anyway, Giants, whatever. Same team playing in the same stadium. The
Yeah.
Jets, 0-1. Buffalo 6.5-point favorites. 45.5 over under. Buffalo, Josh Allen, MVP, holds it on his back the last game. But Justin Fields and this defense played not bad, and they were able to put up points. Well, I don't think we've ever seen in the Jets recently where they can actually go into a slugfest, which they did last week.
Right.
Is this something they can do? Because this Buffalo defense doesn't hit the same. I mean, Pittsburgh defense looked a little weak last week, to be honest. But the running game of the Jets is still there. Justin Fields, mobile quarterback, they can get things going. A lot of Bear fans watching this with interest. How do you feel about Buffalo at home when the Jets have sort of played them a little tight before?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. The Bills. I think the Jets keep it close. I think this game's gonna come down to the wire. To be honest with you, I think the Bills just lost Ed Oliver for a couple weeks. Just got injured in practice. And he was literally the only good Bills defensive player last week. Caused the fumble, was able to get a sack. So that's a big loss, especially with someone like Justin Fields, who's been able. So I like he's going to be running it like crazy. I think there's a couple nice bets you could do on the Jets, that all Jets rushing props basically, because I think they saw what Baltimore did to Buffalo, and that's what they're like, that we're just going to have to run these guys into the ground, get them tired. The only other thing is, the difference is they got Aaron Rodgers get 4 touchdowns on you. Now you got Josh Allen coming in. And I think that's the big difference. I think the fact that I think James Cook can probably have a big game. I like him to score a touchdown. I think, Dalton, the fact that Sauce Gardner could maybe take out Keon Coleman. But other than that, they've been really susceptible. So I think Kincaid could have a big game. I think Shakir could be a guy that's kind of going to get fed kind of his over 4.5 receptions, I think, is really good. But to me, I just think Bills are just a better teams. I think the Jets can kind of keep it close. I'm going to say Bills 27-24. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I don't know if it's going to be, maybe the Jets have a chance at the end to kind of come back and tie, and then something happens like last week. Kind of similar story
Yeah.
where Jets, because the Bills have struggled in the Meadowlands over the years, the last few years.
Yeah.
Every game's been a real struggle. They've lost to Zach Wilson there twice. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, so I'm not in any sort of thinking the way the Bills D played last week that they're just going to blow out teams every week. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I'm with you at close. I mean, I've got it at 6 points. The spread 6.5. I've got them just pipping it at 6. I've got it 30-24. I could see the Jets coming out, taking a lead. Buffalo having to use Josh Allen's superpowers again to come back in this one. But again, as you say, these two teams have played each other close, particularly at the start of the season. And I could see Buffalo, you get an emotional win. You come from behind, you win that game, and sometimes you overlook the Jets, but the Jets don't want to be overlooked. They felt that they could have won this game last week. So I think there's going to be a bit of they're going to play them really tough. So I've got it 30-24. The Bills maybe win on the last touchdown, but I've got the Jets covering this. We head into Detroit, where Ben Johnson is returning home to a Detroit team that was quite hapless. They're 0-1, Chicago 0-1. Detroit 6-point favorites in this one. There's a lot of talk. There's 47.5 points over under, so I think there's a lot of points anticipated being scored. This Detroit team does not look like the team that was 15-2 before. They did not look good against the Packers squad last week. You expect them to rebound, but this is a retooled Chicago squad, and they're in the Dome in Detroit. Is this one where the Lions romp all over the Bears? The Bears, do you think, have a chance in this one?
Yeah, I think it's that the storylines alone, just how, like, Ben Johnson's just going to want to absolutely take it to them. And the Lions are going to want to take it to Ben Johnson. It's like, you left us to go to our
Sure.
enemy, basically. So that kind of whole thing. So I can see this kind of being a shootout, a little bit of a
Mm-hmm.
punch up at a wedding. It's going to be this one. It feels
Yeah.
like. I think the fact that, I like Caleb Williams rushing, like the way he ran last week. I'll probably bet is
Mm-hmm.
over. Just because he looked really fast. It's in a dome. Hit Roma Dunze I think they are going to be able to kind of, as
Yep.
bad as Caleb was in the second half, fantasy wise, he was quite good. He had quite a really
Yep.
good game. So I think the Lions are going to win. I think the Lions just because they were, Super Bowl contenders, they got the talent. I think last week was, Jared Goff at home is just a different beast. Jared Goff in the dome
Yeah.
at home plays better. I still think Caleb is going to find it that Hutchinson's going to really come at him. I think they're going to try and really make him hold on to it and try and get him doing that dance and throwing the overthrow. I think Ben Johnson's wants this badly. I'm gonna go. I think it's gonna be a shootout. I'm going 31-28 for the Lions.
Ooh. So, yeah, I mean, you got Chicago covering it. I actually have Chicago to win this one. Surprise, surprise,
Yeah.
surprise. I just think Ben Johnson, particularly is going to be motivated by this. It looked like Caleb just fell apart in the second. They had a plan, then that plan fell apart. And so to me, it seems like Ben Johnson needs to coddle him a bit. Okay, buddy, here you go, buddy. Here's what you do. And I think that's what he needs, just a little bit of, a little bit of tough love, but a lot of love. So, there was a big problem, I think, with the offsides and the amount of mistakes that the Bears made last week that really pissed me off. It's like another offsides. So I think Ben Johnson really toughened him, saying, look, this is not, we screwed up last week and we messed up with the amount of penalties that we threw in. We cannot make mistakes against this team. This is not the team you make mistakes against. You do not give them yardage. So I've got the Bears winning 27-25. To me, the Lions are just not the same team they were before. That were romping all over, and they just don't seem to have that sort of game plan. So Bears win on the road. Aaron Rodgers is at home, a new home. He's 1-0, and they're 3-point favorites over a Seattle team that got some good rushing going on with Walker and Carbonet. They're 0-1. Pittsburgh 3-point favorites at home, 39.5 point over under. Vegas is telling us this is going to be a defensive minded game. Pittsburgh, the defense did not look as good. Aaron Rodgers, we can talk about there were some lucky bounces that he had with the ball, but DK Metcalf facing his former team in this one. Maybe, I start looking him for a cheeky anytime touchdown because he's going to want to put one in on this. But how do you feel about Aaron Rodgers and them? They've settled in after that first victory against the Jets. Now they're facing still a tough defensively minded team with a strong running attack. Although I don't know about, Sam Darnold in this one. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on Pittsburgh at home?
Well, first, can I say that the number of 6 o'clock games or 1 o'clock games this week is insane. There's only three.
There's only
late
3 at 4.
night. Like, what do they do?
And
Why
there's
is the
2 on
NFL
Monday night.
Well, yeah, why does the NFL do this? Why are they like front load? So we're all gonna have the ADHD by the end of the first games. We're all just constantly looking
Yeah.
over, just in a coma. Yeah, for this is a kind of fun game, I think. I'm interested to see Rodgers in his next game. Was that a byproduct of his, his dark side taking over, like the hate consuming him of the Jets, which just made
Hmm.
him play well. And now that that's gone, he's going to be back to kind of playing the way he was last year. I'm gonna go with the Steelers to win this. I think they're gonna have a little bounce back. I don't trust Darnold. I think their running
Yeah.
game is they don't know who's the number one. Charbonnet's getting a lot of the carries and Kenneth Walker, and then this week it could be Kenneth Walker. So it's like nightmare fantasy situation for owners. I like the idea of DK having a kind of a big game. I think they're going to want to feed him. I think he's also their only receiver, and he looked good last week with
Yeah.
Rodgers. It looked like they were on the same page a bunch. So I think he's going to want to, yeah, like you said, anytime touchdown, I do like. But to me, I just think I'm going to trust that TJ Watt and this defense can kind of make Sam Darnold make mistakes. If I'm going to say who's going to make mistakes this game, I'm going to go with Darnold because that's kind of been his MO. I think Rodgers is on a mission to at least kind of make the playoffs and have a decent year. The fact that they're at home, I think, is to their advantage. His first game in front of the home crowd, he's going to want to play well. So I'm going to go with them to win 23-20. Kind of ugly, not that close, but I think it'll be a close game.
So you got to push on this one. I've got Seattle covered. I've got 20-18. I think it's gonna be a defensive game, slow game in this. The one thing when you saw with Ben Skronik or whatever, the tight end for Pittsburgh, I mean, they got a couple tight ends, but it seems like this is a good option because, as you say, they don't really have the big wide receivers going on, but he was able to find a couple of these tight ends, and Skronik got a touchdown, so I can see him finding a bit of tight end action going on here, and of course DK scoring. But Seattle is just going to be running the ball because I think Darnold is going to find a lot of pressure. To your point, they're going to have to try to run it, and Pittsburgh struggled with the running backs of the Jets last week, so I could see that happening again. 20-18. We go to our final 1 o'clock game, as you said, and San Francisco, often injured, even more injured last week. Purdy out, Kittle out. So you got Ricky Purcell as your number one. Mac Jones, a team that
Ooh.
originally drafted him, I think.
No,
He's
no,
what the
no,
San.
no. They were
They
there
almost
was
drafted.
like there was rumors that I was going to talk about that. It was rumors that Mac Jones could have been drafted. It was when they drafted
Yeah,
Trey Lance. So it's like, were they going to do Trey
yeah,
Lance or Mac Jones? And that was kind of the thing.
yeah. So
So
he
it's
could
like,
have played there, but he didn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't.
Alternate universe, but New Orleans is 0-1. Spencer Rattler, I mean, we've talked about this. I don't know if he could even make the CFL, but New Orleans is 0-1. They're going to lean heavily on Alvin Kamara in this one. 42.5 is the over-under in this one. New Orleans at home. I mean, they booed Derek Carr relentlessly, and he was sort of the best thing they had in a while. But San Fran seems to be able to put things together, even with a broken team. Can they do the 3-point favorites, 42.5 over-under?
Yes, I think they can. I think again, I'm quite fascinated to watch this. I want to see how Mac Jones does. And Mac Jones is a decent guy. Like his first year with New England, he was good. Say what you want about him, but he had
Mm-hmm.
a good took him to the playoffs. And I think this could be the thing where it's like, he was a first round talent and now he's with someone like Shanahan. You just see, does the baton get it's not going to be a disaster. I think they did a really smart move by backing up Purdy with him.
Yeah,
What happens if Mac Jones comes out and plays really well? So I like Ricky Pearsall. I think they're going to want to feed McCaffrey. I think this is a big McCaffrey game. I think they're going to running, receiving, whatever. I think if you got him in fantasy, you're going to feel good about this.
yeah,
And I just think, to me, because I don't feel losing, I think the Kittle injury hurts, but I don't think losing Purdy and going to Mac Jones is that massive a downgrade. Maybe it is. Maybe Mac
yeah,
Jones has completely lost it, but he was on some bad Patriots teams after that first one. So like the Patriots
yeah,
got progressively worse, and Bill Belichick, and went on put him on an insane old man crisis now, dating a 24-year
yeah,
old because of Mac Jones that year with Mac Jones. So I think they're gonna
yeah.
come back. I think they're gonna have a really good game. I think Mac Jones has like 3 touchdowns and kind of just gets Niners excited, being like, "Why did we pay Purdy?" So I'm gonna go 30-17 for the Niners. Big win.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I mean, I think we used to joke in other podcasts before that, the system that San Francisco has set up, literally you could put a goat in there, an actual physical goat, and it
Mhm.
would still do okay. I mean, he was able to make this team work with Brock Purdy, and yeah, let's see what someone like a Mac Jones can do. Mac Jones should be able to shine in this. The whole thing is put together, just don't crash it pretty much. So again, I think Pearsall will have maybe, I mean, we had Tong getting 3 touchdowns. I could see him maybe getting another one because they were able to find some movement. He was a big guy. He was able to find some holes and no one knew how to cover him. The guy blocked well as well. I've got a 20-14. I think it's going to be slow defensive game. One of those, but San Fran covering that 3 points, winning by 6. Let's head into the 4 o'clock games. As we said, there's 2 Monday nighters, 1 Sunday nighter, 3 games at 4 o'clock, which means red zone is pretty much an easy bet. Carolina
Yeah.
is 0-1, Arizona 1-0. Arizona 6.5-point favorites, 44 and it is the over under. You've got Kyler Murray at home. Hopefully his stomach is feeling better this week. But Carolina, you wonder, they've gotten rid of everyone. You've got Tet, whatever his name is, the only sort of guy that they can throw to. And then it's the Chuba Hubbard show. They got rid of Adam Thielen. They got rid of all the sort of tools that Bryce had. Not a lot of things left for him. Whereas Arizona, you could see, they've got some of the running game. Connor was getting things going. McBride, you've got Marvin Harrison. You've got a lot of talent on this Arizona team at home. Does Carolina stand a chance in this one?
Well, I mean, after watching what Travis Etienne did, Travis Etienne was so good against Carolina that he got 10 Bigsby traded. That's how good of a game he
Yeah.
had. So
Yeah.
that's all you need to know, basically. So if I'm the Cardinals, I'm trying to run Connor. I think they got Benson, I think is their backup. I could see him getting a bunch of
Yeah.
carries too. Just using Trey McBride. Again, this is just a weapons discrepancy. I thought Kyler didn't play that well last week against the Saints. I
No.
thought should have gone in there and just kind of established himself as like, this is my team. We're gonna kind of score now. We're good enough. We've got an awesome tight end, awesome receiver. So I'd like to see if they can kind of. I think it might be a bit tougher for Marvin Harrison because they're going up against Horn this week. But to me, it's just the Panthers. I was kind of hoping there was going to be a spark, but there was no spark last week when I watched that game. And maybe the weather delay had something to do with it. I think it's a bit
Yeah.
closer than everyone thinks. So I'm going to go 24-21 for the Cardinals.
You got the
Yeah, I
Carolina to
didn't think
cover. I
Panthers
don't
would
see them.
cover. Yeah, yeah.
I don't have the Panthers cover. I got it 31-9. I can't see
Oh,
them. I think Arizona at home, they're going to feast off these guys. I can just see a bit of a beating going on. And again, it's going to be Chuba that gets a lot of the work done. It's just going to be a bunch of field goals as far as I can see in this one. But 31-9, Arizona cruises to an easy victory, goes 2-0. It's the battle of the horsies. Denver is 1-0, heading into the Colts, who are 1-0. And
someone's
which
getting
team
taken out back and shot after this.
Well, that's it. Someone's off to the glue factory after this one. Both teams 1-0. But did we really see the Indianapolis Colts? I mean, it was just such a weird game last week. Denver 1.5-point favorites. 32.5 is the over under. Denver and Bo Nix did not look good on offense. There was a lot of mistakes being made. We also know Sean Payton historically is a bit of a slow starter.
Yeah.
A bit of the old crusties in the eyes going up. But Indianapolis at home in the Dome. Which horsey do you like to win in this race?
I mean, I'm gonna take the Broncos. I feel like that Daniel Jones against Dolphins might have just been like the perfect situation. And now you might see a little bit more of the true Daniel Jones experience this week. It's going to be really hard for him to kind of get anything going with this offense because this Broncos D is going to be coming at them. I think Bo Nix had a really bad game, so I see him kind of settling down, being much more efficient, much better, less turnovers. I think 1.5 feels just like a nice number. I would take that even because I feel like the Broncos are going to win, and that almost feels like a pick 'em. So if I can get 1.5, I'm going to take the team with the better defense, the better coach, the better kind of quarterback. So to me, it just feels like all the pieces are on the Broncos side. The only thing the Colts have is they're at home, but I don't think that is an advantage. So I know the Broncos to win this kind of easily. I'm going to go them to win 23-13.
Ooh, a bit of a beating. I like a little cheeky Indianapolis upset here.
What?
I think that, yeah, I've got them win 21-20. I think at home they'll be playing well. They showed some signs, the offensive line coming back. You're going to have Jonathan Taylor. He might struggle a bit, but Tyler Warren, the tight end, I think is going to have a good one. Daniel Jones can just feed him a bit. Denver has shown that they're weak against the tight end position, so I like them to go with it. I think the Irsay daughters are really trying to cement themselves as these owners and trying to work across everything, supporting it. I think the fans are behind it too. It's sort of this year where everyone's sort of celebrating Jim, and there's a bit of momentum there for that. So I like them. A little upset. As I said, I think Sean Payton is just starting a bit slow, and I can see that slow start continuing. I got a 21-20. Indianapolis pips them with a field goal at the end. It's a Super Bowl matchup for our 4 o'clock game, the final 4 o'clock game. Philadelphia, 1-point favorites. They're 1-0, heading to KC, who are 0-1. 46.5 is the over-under. We all saw what happened in the Super Bowl last year, where the Eagles defense just smothered Patrick Mahomes. And, Kelsey knocked out one of his own guys last week because Taylor told him to. He was taking her shine. Don't let him take your shine. But KC at home, I mean, going 0 can't happen for them. And Philadelphia, they know these guys. This is going to be a big matchup. But is Philadelphia maybe looking, going, yeah, we'll see it. We'll see at the end of the game. We don't really care about this one. What do you think about Philly and KC? KC at
I
home.
feel like if the Chiefs were fully manned, I'd take the Chiefs. I would take
Hmm.
the Chiefs at home on a rematch. Like if they had Worthy, if they had Rasheed Rice, that the thing that worries me, there's a lot of things that worry me about the Chiefs. Right now, Pacheco looked terrible last week. They've
Hmm.
kind of never given Mahomes a running game since he's been there. I mean, Pacheco's been had his moments, but he's never been this guy where it's like, oh my God, how do you stop Isaiah Pacheco? They have to bring in, Hunt who looks slow. Their offensive lines are, gonna have problems with this. One bet I love is, and it's one of the bets every time I watch a Chiefs game, I always hit myself and be like, why don't I ever just take the Mahomes rushing over? It happens
Hmm.
every single game. I don't know any game I've watched where I don't see him running for like 40 yards, especially with,
Yeah.
he's gonna, especially on those 3rd and 10s, he's gonna be running towards the sidelines, trying to get the penalty, doing his Mahomes thing. So to me, I'm hammering that on bets. I think this is just a talent discrepancy right now. I think the Chiefs D look bad against
Yeah.
the Chargers last week, and I think the fact they're at home does help. But I think the Eagles just have too many horses. I think it'll be closer, but I'm gonna go with the Eagles to win. I'm gonna go 28-25.
To me, that just means so much more to the Chiefs. Like this is like we're going 0-2. This is a team historically sometimes it starts really well, and to have these coaches with Spags and Reed, they've been wanting for this game. I think it's been on the calendar. Maybe even looked ahead last week in the Chargers game. But I've got KC winning this one. Philadelphia, I think that they've already got their momentum, their trajectory going. They did struggle. I think KC is going to look at how that Dallas game went and got, okay, we found some holes there. I think we can do that. So I've got KC winning 24-21. We head into our late game on Sunday. Big game for everyone. Atlanta 0-1, hitting in Minnesota. We're 1 in Minnesota, 3.5-point favorites. 45.5 is the over/under. We saw J.J. McCarthy struggle for 3 quarters and then come alive in the fourth. They're at home in the Dome. Atlanta, struggled. It was a tough game for them, trying to get some things, but maybe Drake London will have a good one today. How do you find Minnesota's chances at home as 3.5-point favorites?
I'm gonna go for a Falcons upset on this one. I just think
Ooh,
I thought they played all right last week. They should have won. They absolutely should have
yeah.
won. Then again, if they couldn't, they couldn't really get Bijan going on the ground, even though he had a good game receiving. But I think if they can get him going, Pitts looked faster. Pitts looked like a guy that him and Penix. London didn't really have a great game, so no bounce back game from him. I just think that the Falcons just kind of, especially coming off that heartbreaking loss, the Vikings coming off this emotional fourth quarter comeback. JJ McCarthy just had a kid this week, so his sleep is
Hmm.
effed. He's not sleeping at all this week, so he's gonna be tired from that newborn baby screaming. So I'm gonna go with a tired JJ to lose this at home. His home debut. I think the Falcons come in and kind of surprise you. Maybe take it last second. I'm gonna go 27-24 for the Falcons.
An NFL quarterback with a new baby, take it to your mom's house. I don't want it distractions. I'm
Yeah.
going to a hotel. A big game for me, babe. So I don't know. Obviously Atlanta's going to look at what Caleb did in terms of his rushing and his able to scramble. So Penix is going to have to look for that. Bijan, I can see getting a lot of receptions because he's going to run into a bit of a line. It comes down to the coaching, which bit us Bears last week. I like Minnesota at home in this one. I don't see a lot of points being scored in this one. I've got it 19-14. I think it's going to be low scoring, a lot of mistakes being made, a lot of penalties in this one as well. For some reason, I just find these two are just going to thwart each other, just like the Bears did. Let's head into our first of the Monday night games as Tampa Bay is heading into Houston. Tampa Bay is 1-0. Houston 0-1. Houston is 2.5-point favorites with a 42.5-point over/under. Houston being favored when Tampa Bay is 1-0. There's still some pieces missing on Tampa Bay. And Houston looked a little bit lackluster in their beating against the Rams last week. Are they going to turn it around at home against this Tampa Bay team?
I mean, they're just bad, right? They like Nico looked bad, and if Nico Collins can't be dominant, like they have no chance. You're relying on a Chubb. Chubb looked decent. Yeah, he looks like he's the guy that they're going to lean on. But if your T offense, as good as your defense is, if your offense is struggling Nico Collins and Nick Chubb, you're in big trouble in the offense, especially Mbuka looks really good. So you got him, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving. Coden, I think also Caden or something. Their tight end's really
Yeah.
good.
Kate Otten?
I just think, yeah, I just think Otten, yeah, that's it. Kate Otten. I think there's just a weapons discrepancy. I think the Bucks, coming off that lucky win, are going to want to kind of tighten things up. I think, It's going to be tough. I think this one's low scoring game. I'm going 17-14 for the Bucks. I think it's going to be ugly, and I just have no faith that the Texans are going to be able to move it up and down on anybody right now.
It's the defense, I think, that's going to be the difference here. And I think that Houston does have a good defense. They just have to get it to show up this week. Missing Wirfs for Tampa Bay is still a big pressure point for them. But I can see Baker going to get harangued and harassed a lot in this game. CJ Stroud has to pull this together in front of this hometown crowd. So I like Houston to win this one, not in a big one. I've got them to win 21-16. Defensive, low-scoring game. Again, probably a lot of mistakes. It seemed like a lot of people had some fog in their eyes last week, and some teams will continue to have that. I think Houston and Tampa will be that, but I still see Tampa putting it together for a run as the season goes on. But I've got Houston win this one at home. It's our final game. Whoever's staying up to 10 o'clock Eastern
Yeah, I
time
know, right?
on a
What are
Monday
they
night.
doing? What's the NFL
That's
doing?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's 3 a.m. in the UK if you want to wake up. Get up a little early, folks. If you're a Raiders fan or a Chargers fan, both teams are 1-0. Chargers 3.5-point favorites heading into Vegas. 46.5 point is the over under in this one. Justin Herbert looked very good in this game. The defense for Vegas is starting to come together, but you've got the running clamp down defense of the Chargers, who should be able to put the locks on Genty. So it's going to be up to Geno Smith to be able to get it. Brock Bowers, they're not sure about him. He did seem like he was a bit injured, but maybe he'll be back for this one. Chargers seem to be moving on momentum after that game in Brazil. Do you see him continue on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the fact that Bowers doesn't play, it's going to be really hard for the Raiders to kind of keep up with Justin Herbert. The fact that Keenan Allen looks so good, Quentin Johnson looked good, and that McConkey, I think is just I think that's going to be just so reassuring for the Chargers and their offense. Omario Hampton didn't really have a great game, so as in Najee going to get a bit more carries, so that's like a murky backfield. I want nothing to do with fantasy or
Mm-hmm.
betting wise. But I think I'm just going, I think if Bowers is playing, I could maybe see a sneaky Raiders upset at home,
Yeah,
kind of, especially Chargers coming out of Brazil, kind of a big emotional win over the Chiefs, kind of having that letdown game. But I think without Bowers, it's just going to be too hard. I think the Chargers are going to be able to do whatever they want, basically, against, especially defensively against this Raiders, because all you have to do is really stop Genty, and that's about it. Unless,
yeah.
Jacoby Myers, you're that worried about him. So I go with the Chargers to win 27. I just think they're the better team and they got all the momentum.
I have that exact same score, 27-20. Same points as you. It's going to be too that I think if the Chiefs do lose on that 4 o'clock game, they're going to be even more inspired. It's like, okay, we can go 2-0, depending
Yeah,
on how Denver does, but this is a big thing. We're 2-0, they're 0-2. This is a big thing in
that's
terms of
true.
this division that
That's
really
true.
gives you that motivation. They looked really good. They've got that extra time off. You go from playing on the Friday in Brazil to coming back. You're in Vegas. It's not too far from home. You're back on home turf. Your stomachs are all settled. You crapped all the stuff that made you sick in Brazil out. And this is a motivation. Herbert's got a new girlfriend and she's a celeb, and he's in the press now too. So I think all of those, the coaching and the defense is going to work on this one. I'm with you. 27-20. Folk, that's it for our week 2 predictions. Hopefully that you get some bets out of it. Make sure you check out our social media. Ryan, I'll be putting up some of our little prop bets if you want to take a look at some of those as well. Enjoy, everyone, and happy week 2 of the NFL.